I'm standing on the stage today by chance. So to help you understand what I'm talking about, I'm going to rewind the clock about a year, back to when I was 16 years old and my sophomore year in high school was just coming to a close. We were assigned our final history project for the year. We were separated into teams of 5 students, and my team was told that we would need to design a practical, functional healthcare system in 3 weeks. And then we were told that we would need to take this system that we generated and present it to a panel of judges within 7 minutes. It's kind of a lot to ask of us, isn't it? I mean, I'm barely old enough to drive a car by myself, and I'm driving a country's healthcare. After, a first stressful 2 hours, my team got together and we said we accept this challenge. And so we began by looking at healthcare systems around the world, why they work, what the circumstances needed to be for them to work. Our goals for the project were high quality, low cost, personal accountability, and accessibility. Seems simple enough, right? We began asking questions like, how much money is lost in patient choice? Or how do poor people get healthcare for a cheap price? And in response to all these questions, we generated a system that centered around a health savings account pay system from Singapore. And on top of that, we added systems around that included school nutrition programs from Japan, water sanitation facilities from New York City, and electronic health records from France. And so we put all this together in 3 weeks, and a lot of caffeine was consumed during the process. But 3 weeks went by, and we were all very stressed, and presentation day came. We presented our idea to the judges within 7 minutes. And they liked it. They thought it was incredibly ambitious, but they did not understand everything that we had done. And the problem with my group is that we became so passionate about healthcare during this process, so passionate about getting the right answer, we just kept finding new things to look at, new elements to just throw into this large pile of things we would have to comprise into a system at the end until the basic description that we had to write exceeded 12 pages. We felt that we either had the chance to do this simply or to do it right, because they asked us a pretty loaded question, design a healthcare system. And we didn't think the answer could be simple. We didn't think that we could describe what we wanted within 7 minutes. And through the course, I developed a personal passion for healthcare because healthcare as an industry, let's face it, it's incredibly unique. And it's unique for a couple of reasons. And these are things that I didn't read in news articles and no one told me. They're just things that I kept finding. The more I looked in, the more articles I read. Things that every time I looked at healthcare, they came up. And the first is that everybody, and I mean everyone in this room, I mean everybody in the world, is a consumer of healthcare. Now, if you were born in a hospital, or if you've ever had surgery, or if you've ever put a Band-Aid on a cut, you're a consumer within the healthcare industry. And the second reason is that healthcare as an industry is incredibly personal. Every decision you make within healthcare, lives are on the line. People's lives are on the line. And that really struck a chord with me. I was incredibly interested in the healthcare industry. And this random high school assignment is what opened the door to healthcare for me. And I decided to walk through it. And this passion that I described, that I created for myself over the course of this project, is one that I would pursue beyond school. So when summer came around, many kids did other things, but I stayed locked in. I looked for news of reform. I checked out books at the library. That seems kind of odd for teenagers to do nowadays. And finally, in August, I attended a medical devices trade show in Minneapolis with my father's company, Prolific Software. That's me on the right. You can see who eats the Wheaties in the family. I want y'all to take a step back for a second. There I am, 16-year-old kid, spending my free time during the summer pitching a room full of adults on life sciences software. There are no other teenagers in the room. The great thing was that everyone wanted to know why I was there, because they wanted to know who I was and what the heck I was doing spending my free time at this trade show. This event ended up being the highlight of my summer. And so naturally, when I returned to school that September as a junior with healthcare fresh in my mind, all fired up, I was excited to share it with everyone, and nobody cared. None of my peers cared about healthcare. Many of them interned at local businesses, quite a few of them vacationed, but almost nobody in my age group cared about healthcare as a job. Why? Why don't teens care about healthcare? And one of the things I want to specify is that when I say healthcare, I mean everything that's not practicing medicine. It would be ridiculous to claim that teens don't want to be doctors, because pretty sure if I said, Who in this room at one point in their life said, I want to be a doctor when I grew up? Probably most of you would raise your hand. I think I did at one point after watching an episode of ER. When I mean healthcare, I mean pharmaceuticals, healthcare administration, everything that isn't on the practicing medicine side, because that's the stuff that teens ignore. And it's incredibly important because nothing in the healthcare world would get done without that side. Imagine a doctor cures Ebola tomorrow, nasty virus, nasty side effects. He finds a cure, but we don't have the resources to mass produce it. We don't have the distribution channels to get it out. We haven't cured anything because we haven't cured anybody. Those kind of behind the stage things, those things that keep the lights on in the hospitals, are just as important. And so I was looking at all this and I was saying, why don't teenagers care about this? And I went on a journey. I went on a journey to discover why teens don't care about healthcare. And I found many reasons, and many of them are generalizations, and obviously everyone's unique, so it doesn't apply to every single teen. But I found three main categories that apply to the majority of the people I've had interaction with. So the first reason that teens don't care about healthcare is teens don't pay. Now, if I were to go to the Apple Store and buy myself an iPad, I would know every single inch of what that iPad does because I have to pay for it. I want the best deal for my money. But when I go to the doctor, my parents cover my healthcare, so in reality, I don't know what I'm paying for or what I'm getting because I don't pay. My wallet's not any lighter walking out of there, and if I feel fine, that's just an appointment on my schedule. So the second reason teens don't care about healthcare is teens are healthy. That's not me, by the way. But if you look at me, I'm 17 years old, going on 18. Physically, I'm pretty much as healthy as I'm ever going to be, and I'm not prone to sickness, so healthcare doesn't consume a lot of my time. Now, as I get older, I'm sure I'll care much more about healthcare as physical well-being becomes a bigger issue, but at the moment, it's a distant worry. So once again, if I'm going to buy myself an iPad, I'll probably use it daily, checking Facebook, going through email, doing school stuff. But if my entire experience with healthcare is 30-minute checkup and a flu shot per year, why do I have any motivation to understand how it works? It doesn't consume my time. I don't care. And so the first two topics I described mainly deal with out of sight and out of mind. They're things that teens, don't interact with healthcare. And the third reason is the most important, and it's how teens do interact with healthcare. And it's that healthcare is not sexy. Now, your initial reaction may be to agree, maybe to disagree, and there's some truth to this statement. Healthcare can be sexy or can be not sexy, but what I should really say is that when teens look at healthcare, they see red flags. And what I mean is when I set out to find out why teens don't care, I wanted to see how do they perceive healthcare? What do they see when they see that word up on the screen? And so I ran around my school and I interviewed about 70 teenagers, mostly sophomore to junior year in high school, and just said, what do you think / know about American healthcare? So these are some of my notes. I have terrible handwriting, so don't try and read it. But I just asked these questions. They gave me a lot of responses, positive and negative, but the main thing that I noticed when I look back over these notes is almost everyone said, I think Obamacare blank. I didn't ask you about Obamacare. I said healthcare. It's just a fraction. It's just a drop in the bucket. But they said, oh, that's what I know. And the point is that because of the first two reasons, teens are ignorant to healthcare because they don't pay and they aren't sick very often. We only really know what's going on in healthcare through what we see in the media, what we're exposed to, what we read, and what we hear. And lately, that's almost entirely consisted of the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. When I looked deeper into this, I wanted to understand, how teens saw Obamacare, and whether you support the bill or not is really not that important. How I wanted to see how teens perceive it. What's really the point is that you can't deny that Obamacare has been extremely controversial in function. It's been argued tooth and nail by both sides, pretty much to the point that no one really wants to hear about it anymore, least of all teenagers. And so if teenagers are sitting looking at healthcare with Obamacare as the face of the industry and all they see is a political street fight happening right in front of them, all we really see is just a massive red flag planted right in front of that path. And, when teens around my age begin to think about what they want to do with the rest of their life, they're incredibly selective about, where they want to go. And if they see a red flag right down the middle of the path, they're just going to stray away. They have no intention of going down that path. That discourages teens because controversy is not sexy. So now that I've laid out my 3 points, probably all the adults in the room are going, great, why should I care? I'm an adult. Why do the career choices of teenagers affect me or healthcare as a whole? This is my friend Max Armstrong. Now, Max isn't involved in healthcare per se, but he's an engineer. He likes to tinker, improve, change, all sorts of stuff. And about 4 years ago, Max was in 8th grade, and he was assigned a class project where he was told that he would need to design a revolutionary type of medical device for a specific field of patients. Another loaded question, but Max took this assignment to heart and has spent the past 4 years of his life in his basement developing a revolutionary type of prosthetic attachment system for amputees. And he already owns patents on the subject, and I've seen it. It's truly incredible what he's done. He's tested it on patients. It works fine. It's easy to fit because Max has an innovative mind. He innovates. And healthcare as an industry is bound to be disrupted. New medicines are constantly popping up as old ones become obsolete. New viruses are constantly popping up as old ones are eviscerated. And so the cycles are always changing, and so should in turn healthcare systems. Seems logical. But if teens never get excited about innovating, then they'll never do anything. And Max isn't the only kind of teenager with this kind of innovative mind. You can look online and see hundreds of stories about whiz kids and young prodigies inventing robots and websites and all sorts of cool inventions that are revolutionary simply because we as young thinkers are programmed to ask questions and to break rules. And that either leads to being innovative or, if you ask my parents, being grounded. But what I'm saying is that if we as teenagers are never excited about healthcare, if we're never grabbed by the topic and we never choose to go down that path, imagine what's going to happen. Imagine the current generation of healthcare employees retires and no one's innovating. No one's changing anything. Healthcare will just be stuck in a rut, doing what it's done for the past 50 years of just thinking the way it thought 50 years ago, and all of a sudden Ebola's wiped human race off the face of the earth. And so we need innovative thinkers, and we as teens need incentive. So if you want Max to sit in his basement and tinker with healthcare administration, or you want me to question the status quo, or really any teenager to innovate healthcare in some way, we need incentive. For me, the incentive to get involved in healthcare came with my project. I wanted to get a good grade. That was my incentive, and that opened the door for me. But like I said, I got lucky. The door happened to be open for me, and I walked through it. And so what I ask of you today is I'm giving you a challenge, but I wouldn't really describe it as a challenge. I would say it's an opportunity. I want you to open the door for someone else. What I mean by that is I want you to help a young, innovative mind see healthcare in a new light. Maybe the same light you do, or maybe the light that you'd like to see healthcare in. And how you can do that really varies because you may say, oh, I don't work in the healthcare industry. I'd love to do that, but I don't have a job in that. And that doesn't really matter because, as I said before, we're all consumers, right? We all plan to benefit from the progress of healthcare. So why can't we all help out? So if you work in the healthcare industry doing things like offering internships at your business or going to speak at schools about what you do and why you love what you do and why the healthcare industry is so unique and promising, that's great. And even if you're just simply an average consumer, doing anything as simple as talking to your kids about what happens when they go to the doctor. I pay the doctor and he helps you feel better. Anything as simple as that act can help young, innovative thinkers see healthcare in a new, positive light. And so, once again, what I encourage you to do is to open the door for someone else, because we never know who the next great mind coming up to innovate healthcare could be. Help them unlock that part of their mind. Thank you.